All right, welcome back. Welcome, everybody. In this podcast, we're going to talk about some of the things that might surprise you when you visit the US. Maybe it'll be your first time visiting the US, or maybe you've been before and you can kind of compare and see if these things were shocking or surprising to you when you visited the US. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to our American podcast. My name is Ben, and we're joined by Leon, and this is a podcast for you guys to listen to native speakers having a natural, a real conversation. Before we begin, everybody subscribe, click that subscribe button, and also click on the bell. Very important next step. Click the bell after you click the subscribe button and set it to all. That you're setting notifications to all. That way, YouTube will show you videos that we upload. If you don't click the bell and select all, YouTube will not show you our future videos on your homepage, on your feed. So make sure you subscribe, then click the bell and click all, and then you're all set. All right, with that out of the way, let's begin. Let's say hi to Leon. Leon, how are you today?
Yeah, not bad at all. How are you doing? Thank you, Ben, for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yes, of course, always a pleasure. And here we are, our office today, our imaginary office today. Isn't this a stunning, stunning view?
It's amazing. I mean, look at that. Can't really tell. I mean, by the looks of it, it seems to be more of a sunset, but it's just gorgeous. Yeah.
Yes, this is sort of the your typical, well, not typical in that you'll find this in the American Southwest, like maybe New Mexico or Arizona, maybe Utah, Nevada, the Southwest, and this is a common landscape, with the mountains and the cactus and all that. So yeah,
Mhm.
I'm happy to be here. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, imagine this being your office, having that kind of view and having the swimming pool, maybe get a little bit of tan, maybe you got a little bit of beer, maybe, or maybe
Yeah, there
a
you
mixed
go.
drink. That'd be great. A nice cocktail. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, you might want to visit the American Southwest when you're visiting the US. And that's what we're talking about today. What are some of the surprises that you might encounter when you visit the US? So let's start with, let me think. What might surprise you about visiting the US? I would say just the sheer size of things in the US, whether they be, how big the places are, how like the streets, how wide streets are, how spread out, how big cities can be, and even down to things like food portions. Big, right? Big is the operating word here, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. The people and also the landscape. And yeah, I mean, the US is a huge country, and not many people realize because they're so used to seeing just the big cities, but United States is huge. I mean, you can see probably the whole thing, and it'll probably take you what, maybe 15 years just to see the whole thing, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The U.S. is huge, and I mean it's the size of a continent, and it takes a
Mhm.
while to get from city to city. Like, don't think that you can just, oh yeah, we'll do New York, and then I think Chicago's not too far, so we'll do that the next day, and then you know what I mean. It's not like
Yeah.
that. It's a distance.
Yes, exactly. And 15 years, because I said 15 years, because people work, right? So you only get
Right.
maybe a couple of weeks of vacation, so you gotta like save up for it. And like I said, it's a vast area of the US. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is. You'll have to take a plane, obviously, from, let's say, New York to Los Angeles. That in itself is a 5.5 hour or so flight,
Hmm.
with a 3 hour time difference. So you can imagine how big that the country is.
Hmm. And you're gonna meet a lot of Americans too, in terms of everyone has their own way, different culture. And it's funny how I say different culture because the United States is so big. So we have different culture in within the United States because it's so big, the
Yes.
East Coast culture is different than the West Coast culture, Southwest, the country or the South and Florida. I mean, all of that has different type of American culture. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. There, the regional differences as well. And because the country is so big, you will you will notice the regional differences. Like I think people, for example, in the South are much friendlier in
Hmm.
the American South than they are up north, right? So,
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, my experience with Utah when I visited like Salt Lake City and the surroundings, Provo and Ogden. I mean, the people in Utah is amazing for me. I mean, I've never met such friendlier Americans in my experience. Utah
uh,
has to be one of the top of the line. Maybe it's because part of that is it's a religion. They have a different type of religion, the Mormons.
hmm.
But just the people there is so friendly. And the thing that I'm surprised there is I'm so used to happy hour, right? So I'm
Yes.
like getting happy hour, get my drinks. There's no happy hour in Salt Lake City, or I don't know about Salt Lake City, but in Utah in general, there's no happy hour. And I'm like, what? There's no happy hour? And it said, yeah, there's no happy hour here.
Oh, okay, because they don't
They don't
because
drink alcohol
it's so
much.
Mormon. They're not drinking.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Speaking of drinking, so in the US, if you want to drink, you have to be 21 and be prepared to show ID. They're going to ask you for your ID almost like 100% of the time. Yeah, even to buy alcohol or to order alcohol at a restaurant, they're going to ask for ID. If they don't ask for ID, that pretty much means you look old. And it's almost like a joke where people will be like, "Oh, you still ask me for my ID? I must look really young." But yeah, you're gonna have to present ID. So don't leave home without it if you want to drink or buy alcohol.
Yeah, even go to a club too. If you want to go to a club or anything there, if it's a 21 and over type club, they're going to ask for ID. It doesn't matter whether you're 40 plus, 50 plus, they're still going to ask you for your ID.
Yes, that's right. And they're real strict about it, I have to say, in the U.S. with that showing the ID thing. So don't think
Hmm.
that, oh, you know what? I mean, I'm like about to, you know what? You may look like you're about to retire, but they're still going to ask for your ID.
Yeah. I don't know why. I think part of that is seems like they just want to know if you're local or what part of the state you're from or something. Because like if you're in your 40s and 50s and they still ask for ID, the only thing I
Hmm.
can think of is like they want to know if you're out of town or tourist or something like that.
Right. I think maybe they do that just because they have to. Maybe
Hmm.
if there's that, or maybe that way they can't be accused of profiling anybody, like being
Yeah,
selective.
that's true. Yeah. They can't be sued and saying, you're
Yeah.
profiling me, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. And when you buy alcohol at the supermarket, which you can do, you have to show your ID, or at liquor stores, at convenience stores. Sometimes I've seen a sign. Have you seen one of these signs that say "Show be prepared to show your ID unless you look younger than 30" or something like that?
Yeah, I seen kind of a sign like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll need to show your ID when you buy alcohol at a store, and also cigarettes, right? A lot of places
Yeah.
will ask for ID to buy cigarettes.
Mhm. But cigarettes, you got to be 18 to smoke
Right,
in
that's
the
true.
US. Yeah.
Only 18.
But one thing too, I'm not sure is Hawaii because I've heard that in order to drink in Hawaii, you can be 18. You don't have to be 21. But this is the only
Uh,
state that asks for if you're 18 years old to drink alcohol. The rest of it is 21. I don't know if they changed that, but from last time I heard, it was 18 to drink alcohol in Hawaii.
oh, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that the 21 thing to drink alcohol, I think that depends on the state. So from state to state, it could be
Hmm.
different. I think most of them you have to be 21, but yes, you're right. There are some states where you don't have to be 21, but for sure you have to be 18. It's not going to be lower than that.
Yeah. And all the places I visited is 21, at least from my experience. Yeah.
Okay. But
Hmm.
cigarettes, that's pretty standard. It's 18, right, everywhere?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
18
okay.
is the standard because that's an adult. Actually, when you turn 18, you're considered as an adult. So, yeah.
Yes, you're legally an adult. That's right.
Hmm.
And as we're
Yeah.
talking about buying alcohol and cigarettes, speaking of purchasing things, in America, you might be surprised to learn that you can do 24-hour shopping. It's pretty common.
Yes.
Right, with your
Uh-huh.
24-hour Walmarts and those huge hypermarkets that have groceries and all sorts of different things.
Hmm. Yeah, even like restaurants too. I think Waffle House is 24 hours, and then we have Norms, which is in in LA.
Yes.
Denny's is also another 24 hours. I love Denny's for, you can have breakfast anytime, or if you feel hungry, just go to Denny's. It's a chain,
Yeah.
food chain. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places, even grocery that you mentioned, you can go to certain parts of groceries or markets and they're 24 hours. Walgreens, yeah. Pharmacy, if you need
Mm-hmm.
something, yeah.
You're
Uh-huh.
right. Yeah, you're right. I actually forgot about the 24-hour restaurants because in Europe, I don't think I've ever encountered a 24-hour restaurant. Yes,
Yeah.
but they're pretty common in the US. In most
Mhm.
US cities, there's going to be a 24-hour restaurant. It won't be that difficult to find.
Yeah, diners too, in like Hollywood and LA.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of 24-hour restaurants there. Like after a club, you're hungry, you eat. That's the thing too. Speaking of the clubs, I mean, in in Los Angeles, 2 a.m. is considered closed. They close the clubs, right?
Yeah.
Last call for alcohol is like 1 a.m. 1 a.m.
Mhm.
you can't order alcohol anymore. But if you're like in Vegas or maybe New York, their club closes like I think they're I don't know if it's 24 hours, but I think they close 7 a.m., 8 a.m. I think even Miami, Vegas too, and the alcohol I think is all night. But
Mhm.
California is different, right?
What is the reasoning behind not being able to buy alcohol in certain states or cities after a certain hour of the night? What is the reason?
I'm not exactly sure why. I mean, I take it that they don't want a lot of drunk drivers, especially in California, and they want their kids home. They don't want them on the streets, and
Hmm.
I think maybe that's why they close it early. I mean, it's like a party pooper. Uh,
Mm.
Party doesn't start till midnight or even 1, but 1 a.m. is already closing. I mean, it's like what the heck?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
But
why a lot of people like New York because they can
mhm.
party all night. And of course, Vegas is a party place, and Miami too. I know people in Miami that parties all night till the sun rises. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, But you're right in that you can't get alcohol, for example, in LA after 1 o'clock in a bar, but also at a store, at a market, you can't buy alcohol after I think it's midnight or something like that. There's some weird rules about that. And then
yeah.
in other states, the real religious states, like in the South, you can't buy alcohol on Sunday. How about that? So
Oh
yeah, there are
wow.
different regional rules like that,
Yeah, yeah.
which
And
I
that's
don't
why we're called
understand.
the United States of America. People say, why are you guys called the United States of America? And you guys say, you're Americans. Well, Brazilians, South Americans, we're Americans too, right? Because they're in the Americas, right? And
Hmm.
why do you guys call yourself Americans? Because we're like an independent. That's why we're called United States of America, because the states are united, right?
Yeah.
Individually, the states has its own laws and regulations and things like that. Of course, there's a federal law, but in reality, each state has its own kind of law. Yeah.
Yes, they can do things differently if they want to,
Hmm.
certain things. Uh-huh.
Exactly. Mm.
Let's also talk about public transportation. I think you all might be very surprised when you come to the US, when you visit, that public transportation is really not good for a tourist, unless you're in certain cities, and there aren't many. Okay, New York City, great public transportation, right? Maybe Chicago, San
Yeah.
Francisco. But for the most
Hmm.
part, just, outside of those, let's say there's a handful of cities in the US that has good public transportation, but that is it. It's a very car
Hmm.
dependent country.
Yes, exactly. I agree. And the worst part about the public transportation, but before I say that, I think why don't we do a reset of
Sure.
of you know
That's a good idea.
subscribing? Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah. So, everybody, you're listening to the surprises of visiting the US, what you might encounter that you'll find surprising when you visit the US. This is the topic for this podcast. Thank you for joining. If you like what you've been listening to so far, please support the video. Please support the video by giving it a thumbs up. And also, please subscribe to this channel. Click the subscribe button. And also, the next step is very important, guys. After you subscribe, make sure you also click the bell and select all. Why? Because if you don't select all, if you don't click the bell and select all, YouTube will not show you future videos we upload. It doesn't matter if you have already subscribed. YouTube still will not show you future videos unless you click all. So you got to click the bell and select all. And that's it. All right, so let's get back to our topic, things that might surprise you when visiting the US.
Yeah, as I was saying about the worst part about the transportation, I like those cities that you have that has really good transportation, is the cost, is the money that you got to rent a car. Maybe
Yeah.
Uber depends, but it's just the cost. Because imagine yourself without a car, without a transportation, and you're
Hmm.
there, and you're gonna use Uber wherever you go. That's high cost already. And
Yeah.
of course,
Yeah.
if you rent a car, depends on what you're getting, what how many people is there, and yeah, I mean, you can get a compact car. It's good. I think it saves more money, but still the cost is quite expensive, especially if you're
Yeah.
a foreigner because of the insurance. So your insurance is going to cost you more than, say, we Americans, for example.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes. I mean, I think for me, I would rent a car because I'm just like because I'm so American, right? I love
Right.
renting a car. But look, if you don't want to drive because you're like, oh, I don't want to drive in a foreign country, I don't know what's what. Well, that's okay. Okay, so you're gonna take Uber, you're gonna do those one of those rideshare apps or whatever, or a taxi, whatever. But just be prepared. In certain American cities, those cities that are very spread out, very sprawling, very large, you're going to pay a lot. You're going to pay a lot. You might spend $100 a day in Ubers in LA. You know what I mean? Going around LA, $100 a day in Uber. That's no surprise. I mean, just some people who don't live that far from the airport in LA pay $100 just for an Uber ride to LA. So just heads up.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if you're in LA, I mean, you need a car.
yes, you
You
do.
need to rent a car. You can't rely on Uber, because it's so spread out wherever you want to go, whether it's an amusement park, whether it's the beach. I mean, it's so spread out. So you need a car. Unlike Miami, I mean, I went to Miami. I had a car and I didn't
Oh
even
yeah.
use it. I mean, I just used Uber. I mean, Uber was like $5 every time you use Uber, and I
Hmm.
can get from one place to another. So that's fine, but LA, forget about it. Mm.
Yeah. It really just depends on the city. But the point is, we don't have great public transportation except in a handful of cities. And so just be prepared for that.
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah, San Francisco is another great place for transportation. They have the BART system, which is
Hmm.
technically like a subway, but they call it the BART.
Hmm.
If you're in downtown, there's a lot of things to do there. Walking distance. Yeah, Chicago too. They have a subway there that you can use. So they have really great transportation. Of course, New York. I mean, that's where it's kind of started with all that subway thing, and at least in the US. And yeah, but even in New York, you're gonna need some type of transportation, whether it's going to be a tour bus or maybe rent a car or taxi or those type of things, because you're going to be visiting like maybe Statue of Liberty, the you know what else is there? The Empire State Building. I mean, you can go from
Yes.
places like Little Italy, and I mean,
Yes.
there's so many museums, or even watch a Broadway show. So they're scattered too. They're not like walking distance. Times Square, example.
Yes, it is not.
Mhm.
Between neighborhoods, within a neighborhood you can walk, but
Yeah.
yes, be prepared for poor public transportation. And also, speaking of driving, it might surprise you all that in many states you can make a right turn when there's a red light. Isn't that great? I
Hmm.
love that. It saves time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But you got
Uh,
to make a full stop, right? Or you don't?
yes, yes, no, you do. And sometimes I see
Yes.
people who don't even stop for the red light and turn, and they just make a right
Yeah.
turn. That to me that's offensive. At least stop.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes, you
Yeah,
can
like
turn
the
right
rolling
on red.
stop. Yeah, we call it the rolling stop. You kind of like don't make a full stop. Your car continues to roll and then go turn right. If a
Yeah,
police
see
car
that
sees
now.
you, I mean, if a policeman sees you do a rolling stop, you're gonna get a ticket. So
Yes,
be careful
yes,
out there. Yeah.
yes. And this might surprise you also that the police out here, they're real serious about enforcing the traffic laws. And the reason for that is not, they don't do it for your safety. Let's be honest. They do it because they need the money. The city needs the money, right?
Yeah.
The governmental entities, they have quotas. They need to make a certain amount. And this really helps them. This really helps them. So that's why they're looking out for people. They will have police cars parked, hidden behind a building, a tree, or whatever, with pointing a radar gun. So when you're driving, especially on the highways where you think there is nobody here, I can throw a bowling ball down this highway. No, there's a cop hiding behind some rock or something. Just
Yeah.
or else they're in the sky in a helicopter. They'll don't worry, they'll get you.
Yeah.
you'll be able to speed for a certain amount of time, and you might be okay because you're thinking everybody's doing it, but you won't be able to do it for too long before somebody will get you, because that's how they make money.
Mhm. Yeah, and I loved when you said they have quotas. It's so true. They do have quotas, and not many
Yeah.
people understands that, but they actually do. Yeah.
Right, they do. They have to write a certain amount of tickets, a certain
Hmm.
amount of violations per month or whatever. And so, hey, if it's been a slow month, they're going out there, they're hiding. They're hiding with their radar guns, and they're waiting for you. So don't think that middle of the night, nobody. I'm gonna run this light. I'm gonna run the red light. I'm not gonna stop. Go
Yeah,
try it.
and
Go try it.
yeah. And if you get pulled over by the police, by policemen, it's always good to, stop your car, pull over, and put both hands on the steering wheel. This helps
Yeah.
them out, and also roll down your windows. Because if it's not, they're gonna give you such a hassle, like give you a hard time because you're not really helping them because they don't know who the driver is. And never
Yeah.
try to say, "Would you police?" Don't give them an attitude like, "Why'd you stop me? What did I do?" Just
Oh, right. Yes.
politely answer whatever they ask,
Yes.
because if they're not in a good mood, or they're a human being too. So
Yeah.
if you catch them on a bad timing, oh my gosh, good luck to you, especially late at night, like like the wee hours, like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They don't know what they're encountering. They don't know if they're gonna get shot. So
Yes.
they need to know where your hands are. They need to know who the people inside, and they don't want to deal with your drunkenness or your
Right.
attitude. They don't
Yeah.
have time for that. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because Leon, we've got our next topic: how to deal with American police officers.
Okay.
I'm telling you, that's a whole podcast right there.
Yes, I
Right?
agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, we're gonna do that. I'm gonna make a note of that.
Mhm.
What about oh, how about this? Um, the tax is not included in anything where you see a price. You buy clothes, whatever the ticket says, $10 is not
Mhm.
$10. Your restaurant, your menu, it says $10, it's not $10. So nothing is what the price says. You always have to add tax, but they don't add it until you go to pay, and it could be anywhere from, depends on the state you're in, because it's different from state to state. Leon and I are from California. It's about, and even within California, it depends on the city too, but let's say
Yeah.
roughly 9 or 10% to be expected in California cities. Okay. So um, actually, maybe even 7 or 8% in Orange County, the Republican districts. But anyway, it's not uncommon to see sales tax be 9-10%. So just be prepared for that. Same goes with your meals at the restaurant. So there's that, and also the tip. I mean, we did a podcast about the whole restaurant experience. So we will just touch briefly on it, which is that you do need to pay tip. And so once again, it's not the stated price. Your dinner's $20 is not $20. Add 10% for tax, and then 20%, yes, 20% of the bill, in addition to the bill, will be your tip. So you're paying an extra 30% on top of what the bill says. So, right, Leon? That's how we do.
Yeah.
That's how we do.
Yeah. Always expect to pay more. Some people say, why am I paying? Because some people, they're not expecting. They go buy in the grocery, or even maybe in a department store to buy themselves a shirt or a jacket, and they see there the price is like, say, $80, and they think, oh, okay, $80, I got $80. And then when you get there, you have to pay the tax. And oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
why am I paying more? It says there the tag is 80. No, you got to pay the tax. It's like what Ben says. Each city, each state has their own different type of tax. So you got to be aware of that, including
Yes.
tips. If you have going to a restaurant, you got to be prepared for that. I do have
All
another
right.
tip for you, international people visiting US. Want to go shopping, but before I give you my tip and what to expect, I'm gonna have Ben talk about the subscription and subscribing and all
Yes.
that.
Yes. So before, we're going to give you a really good tip. But before we do, please give this video a thumbs up, guys. You've been listening this far. I know you like it. So support this video. It really helps the video if you give it a thumbs up, and that way other people will be able to discover it. But only if you help the video out, only if you give it a thumbs up. So please help us out. Give it a thumbs up. And also subscribe. click the subscribe button, and also make sure you click the bell and select all. It's very important to click the bell and select all, because if you don't, YouTube won't show you future videos we upload. Even if you're a subscriber, even if you are a subscriber, they won't show you future videos if you don't click the bell and select all. So please do it. Make sure you click the bell, select all, and then you're set, and then you won't miss our future videos. Okay, so what is the secret tip?
Yeah, the tip is like if you're going to go to, like, say, for example, Vegas, right? Vegas is a touristy spot. So if you go to a department store, I'm going to use one of the big department store there, like Macy's, for
Okay.
example.
All right.
You go to Macy's and you buy something, uh, say that you're a tourist, that you're from another country, and that you able to maybe waive the tax or not pay the tax. You actually don't pay the tax if you're a tourist, as long as you show proof that you, like, your passport, show them your passport, and you're a tourist. You don't even have to pay tax. And this also applies to California too. So if you're in California and you go to a big department store and you tell them, always ask, do I get any? Do I have to pay the tax? I'm a tourist. I'm visiting here. You may not even have to pay the tax. Just show them your passport.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's great. That's a good tip, guys. Oh, and
yeah,
how about this one as well? It might surprise you to know that certain states don't have sales tax. The one that comes to
yes.
mind is Oregon. So a lot of Californians, if they're going to make a big purchase, they'll go to Oregon to purchase this thing. For example, a computer. If you're buying a computer for several $1,000s, hey, it's not a bad idea to save 10% on $3,000, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, you could do that. You're going to go buy a very expensive watch, do it in Oregon or New
Yeah,
Jersey. I think maybe has no sales tax. Does it?
yeah. I think so. But there's like a lot of states that don't have sales tax, so that's one
Hmm.
thing is good. Yeah,
Yes,
that's
or
great.
maybe they're lower than California at least. Maybe some
Hmm.
states are 5% or whatever. But
Yeah,
yeah, the only thing is Americans, what we can't do is we can't go to Oregon with no sales tax and buy a car, because if you are a resident of California, you register your car, your official address is California. Nope, you got to pay California sales tax. That's the
yeah,
thing you can't do. But for smaller
yeah.
purchases like, a watch, clothes, computers where you don't have to register it based on where you live, yeah, go to a state with no sales tax.
Yeah, that's a really great point. It depends on where you are, and you're going to buy yourself a car and say, wow, this car is in Oregon. I'm going to do this and buy it and expect not to pay any tax or anything like that. No, you got to pay because you're actually living in, say, Los Angeles. So, but you can probably find a good, cheap, car that you can save. It's maybe cheaper in Oregon than it is in LA, for example. Yeah.
Yes, that's true, because California cars, okay, we're going off topic, but California cars, yes, they tend to be valued higher because we have such great weather. It's not going to have rust or anything like that. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And of course, you're going to have pay for transportation fee, but you're still going to save a lot of money. Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
Um, you might also be surprised, guys, when you visit the US, how friendly and helpful people are. I think in general, obviously not everybody, but it's not uncommon. It's not uncommon to for people, strangers, to help you out if you don't know where you're going, whatever. Because Americans are generally, I think, pretty friendly. I mean, at least compared to, well, I've been to some countries where they don't really care, and if you're not speaking their language, they're not going to be very helpful. But in America, we're pretty helpful with foreigners.
Yeah, yeah, we are. We like helping people out. It's just part of our culture, our nature. Of course, not everyone is that. I'm just speaking on the majority. That's why
Yeah.
you see a lot of disasters and things. Who's always the people always helping out? It's always the Americans, whatever it is. So, we have our pros and cons. I mean, we're not perfect, but we are very gracious and helpful. Like I said, not everybody's like that, but I see Americas as being one of the top countries that puts in more money than any other countries out there. So, that
Yes.
speaks volume. That speaks a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you might be surprised uh, of how diverse our country is. You'll see people from all over the world, and they're Americans. and you'll see these the people from everywhere in big cities. I mean, yes, there are parts of America where it's very homogenous, where it's all, one type of person, one color or whatever. But in the cities, it tends to be very diverse, and so you will see diversity not only in the people, but in also the stores, right, and the restaurants and all that. So you might be surprised at how diverse America is, and people often say, "Oh, well, what is the face of an American?" Right? Well, there are many
Yeah.
faces of an American
Mhm.
because that is how America is. It's so multicultural.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great topic that you mentioned. I mean, that probably can go off in another type of podcast, but I'm just going to share like things. And a lot of people out there, a lot of English learners and things, they always say to an English teacher that doesn't feel that one look, that one look, one sound, and they say,
Yeah.
"Wow, you don't look American." It's like,
Yeah.
what is American? It's like what you said, what is an American? Because we're so diverse. And my question is, well, have you ever been to LA? And
Mm-hmm.
99% of the time is, no, I haven't. So how do you know what an American actually looks like? Because we're so diverse, right? If
Yeah.
they don't see you looking like the typical American, like white American, like blonde hair, blue eyes, to
Mm-hmm.
them it's like, you don't look American. I look more American than you, and things like that. And it's for
Yeah.
me, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of weird of you guys stereotyping and thinking that's what Americans are. And in Hollywood, a lot of even those actors are not even American. They're like from different countries, except they may sound American because they do like speech training, right? To sound
Mm-hmm.
American, but they're not really American. They're foreigners, so you got to consider that.
Right. When people say that, I always say, you look at yourself. You
Hmm.
look like you could be an American. My point being that anybody could be American. There's no one
Hmm.
face. A lot of people tend to think, like you said, either you're a white American or you're Black American. We always think Americans are two colors, but that is the furthest thing from the truth. So just know that America is really diverse, and Americans come in all shapes, sizes, color, everything, you name it. You name it. The
Hmm.
whole world is here, and we are united as Americans, right?
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'll share you some information. Like, if you're in a big city, okay, it's very diverse and all that. But once you start going to the small towns, Midwest, I mean, you're not going to have any diversity there. I mean, I went to a place
Yes.
in Indiana, and it was like close to South Bend, which is where Notre Dame is, right?
Yeah.
The university. But it was outside. I forgot the city. Sounds like an Indian city. And I had
Okay.
another friend who was from Wyoming. He's like blonde hair, blue eyes, and a coworker. And we went to this tiny restaurant, for lunch. And he goes, "Go ahead and go inside." And I said, "Why?" And he goes, "I just want to see you go inside. You go in first." And I said, "Okay." I just went in, and it's like one of those movies that you
I
watch.
love how he set you
Everybody.
up like that.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like one of those movies. Like everybody's eating, it's all noisy, and when I walked in, it's like just like that movie. It's like everybody stopped,
Oh,
looked at
really?
me.
Wow.
It's like, yeah, everybody stopped talking, and they looked at me, and I'm like, I'm just looking around. Everyone's looking at me, like just like the movies. And then he walked in, and he started talking to me, and everybody just went about their business.
And
They
then they
thought,
were okay
okay,
with
so
you.
he's with an American, yeah.
That's real.
But it
That's
was
really
just
cool.
funny how that whole experience was. And then afterwards, he was laughing and he says, "So how do you feel?" I mean, I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, people, looked at you, stared at you. I was like, "Nothing, doesn't bother me none, because I'm
Well,
American, right?
it
I'm
certainly
from
makes you
LA,
feel.
right? It doesn't bother me."
It
Yeah,
should make you feel very powerful. I certainly would feel very powerful if everybody stopped
yeah,
what they were doing because I walked
yeah,
in the room. You can't pay for that.
yeah,
Who are you, Elon Musk?
exactly.
Who are you?
And yeah, and I'm the type of person that likes to shake things up. I don't like to,
Yeah.
do things if they're not used to it. Hey, it's like I'm an
Yes.
alien, like something that they haven't seen in everything, right? I mean, they
Yeah.
just see it on TV. But for me, I like to shake things up. It doesn't bother me. I'm from LA. We
Yeah.
have that kind of attitude or personality, persona type thing. So
Mhm.
we don't. It doesn't scare us a bit, especially from
Right.
LA. Yeah.
And you're right in that in like in the middle part of the country, it will be more homogenous, no doubt. But as you get to the
Mhm.
edge, as you get to the perimeter of the country, as you get to the big cities, that is super diverse. But at the same
Mhm.
time, the middle of the country, not as diverse. Of course, I think this will change over time, but that's still the case.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. It's
And
just funny
you'll
when you start traveling to the Midwest. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, no. Go ahead. Yes, the Midwest is a whole different animal, isn't it?
Yeah. You were gonna say something?
Oh, just that um, flags everywhere, especially in the middle of the country. Again, a little bit. It's like super, super, super patriotic in the middle of the country. Not that we're not patriotic at the edges, right? But it seems like you'll see more American flags everywhere in the middle of the country. I'm talking everywhere.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they don't call it the heart of the heartland, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's where all the flags, all the patriotism is, and they're proud. We're proud to be American, you know. We like to showcase our flags, the red, white, and blue, whether, you know, it's a t-shirt or cap or bandana or anything with red, white, and blue, whether it's Independence Day or just a regular type of day. We're just that kind of people. I mean,
Hmm.
when 9/11 took place for us, I mean, everybody was united. Didn't
Yeah.
matter, you know, what color you were or what your diverse background is. Everybody was one. Everybody was American. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely. Um, you guys will also be surprised when you come to the US uh, at two things about people. There are a lot of obese people and there are a lot of homeless people. I think those two really stick out and are shocking and surprising for a lot of people who visit the US.
Yes.
Homeless people in the big cities, it's a real problem. There's a lot of homeless people, and people, asking for money. There's that, and also people have told me that there's a lot of obese people in America, and they're always saying how everything's bigger in the U.S. and I guess so are the people. I think a lot of it has to do with maybe the lifestyle. One, we're car dependent, right? We're not walking as much. Two, we love fast food. Or it has something to do with the diet as well, right? But
Mhm.
yes, I think that will be a surprise for some people visiting the U.S. Those two aspects of people.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a big city or a very active city, you're going to see less obesity. But if you start going
Yeah.
to those rural places, small towns, you're going to see a lot of them. And it's like you said, they don't walk too much. The
Yeah.
diet and the American food, the food portion is so huge, and a
Yes.
lot of junk food too. You know, like McDonald's, Burger King, and that kind of stuff. And this is also the thing. Skid Row, which is the homeless in Los Angeles. If you Google Skid Row, I mean, you
Mhm.
will see how the homeless are, and you're gonna say, "Is this is U.S.? This is L.A.?" It just blows your mind. And yeah,
Yes.
I mean, a lot of people lives on cardboard boxes under the bridges. You see feces in the under the bridge. You got to be careful. I mean, it smells because of the
Hmm.
homeless. Yeah, I mean, it's not a pretty sight. So, and this is
Yeah,
United States.
that
Yeah.
tends to have, the homelessness tends to be worse in the big cities. Has something to do with cost of living, right? Of course, but then
Mhm.
also obese. Now the obesity thing again, I think you tend to see more of that outside of the big cities, maybe in the center of the country. But there are certain parts of the country where people really are very concerned about health and well-being, and in those cities then there's going to be less obesity.
Yeah,
But
I visited like Oregon, for example, and Hood River is a city, and I don't mean to knock on the Hood city itself of Oregon, but I saw a lot of obesity in that city, and I was
oh
like, oh
sure,
wow,
yeah.
there's a lot here. Yeah,
Yes,
it's in the West
yes.
Coast. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's yes, obesity definitely is a thing in the US, and I know you guys have probably heard of it, and well, we can confirm that yes, it is true.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that we should probably stop here. But you know what? This podcast merits probably a sequel. We can do another podcast to continue on with more things that when you're visiting the U.S., you might find surprising. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. We'll do another one. How was it for you, Leon? Good?
Yeah, good. I think it's we should continue a part two, a sequel on this because we're just scratching the surface. There's a lot more
Really
things that
are,
we can
yeah.
discuss about. Yeah,
Yes, we're just at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more here. Um,
exactly.
Okay, so everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the end. Please support the video by giving it a thumbs up. We would greatly appreciate it. And also, don't forget to subscribe. And after you subscribe, make sure you also click the bell and select all. You must select all. Otherwise, YouTube won't show you our future videos that we upload. So it's not enough to subscribe. You also have to click the bell and select all if you want to see future videos that we upload. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Leon, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, you're welcome, and thank you, Ben, for having me. I really enjoyed it, and I hope the people here enjoyed it too. And yeah, continue watching, listening, share this podcast. I mean, there's a lot of education that you can learn from the culture because culture and language goes hand in hand. So this is a
Absolutely.
great place for you to learn all that. So yeah,
Yep, absolutely. Okay, see you guys in the next podcast. Bye-bye for now.
bye everyone. Ciao.